Good morning. Sorry I can't be with you in person, but I've got a number of meetings this morning. So I've pre-recorded this so that you can follow along at your leisure. If you remember the last time we were reading, Link had lost his friend Ginger, who seems to have fallen into the trap of Shelter. Shelter pretended that he'd hit Link in his car and then he had him in the house bleeding. And so he's lost Ginger and he's going to carry on looking for him, and we'll take it from there. Next day was a Friday and I spent it looking for Ginger. I tapped a bit as well, I had to, or I'd have starved. All the time I was looking for him and he didn't show. It's happened, I told myself. He's gone back to his real mates, like you always knew he might. I kept hoping though, deep down. And when you're missing someone, you keep seeing them. There was this woman, Mrs. Chambers, lived next door when I was a kid. When she was about 50, her husband died, and for ages afterwards, she kept seeing him on the street or in the supermarket. She'd jump off the bus or abandon her trolley and go chasing after him. And of course, it was always somebody else. I'd catch a glimpse of somebody across the road or through a shop window, and somebody just like Ginger. And when I got close, I'd find myself gawping at a stranger. It happened half a dozen times. Around dusk, it started to rain, so I went and sat in a doorway on Pratt Street, watching people go in and out of the Posh Chippy opposite. Normally, the smell of the food would have driven me out of my tree, but I guess I was half out of it already. A little voice kept going, "Ginger, Ginger," like that. It was doing my head in, I thought, what if he's lying in hospital somewhere, unconscious, and nobody knows where he is? He might have walked past the end of this street a minute ago looking for me, or maybe he's just lost his memory. In the end, for something to do, I got up and trailed along the station. There was a guy just inside selling the paper. He was there a lot, and I knew him by sight, and I walked past him a couple of times and went up to him. Were you here last night?" I asked. "Yeah." He looked at me. "Why?" I'm looking for someone. My mate. We were supposed to meet here last night. I wondered if you'd seen him." He shrugged. "I've seen a lot of people last night, hundreds. What's he look like, this mate of yours?" "Well, tallish, red hair, bit older than me, carries green pack. Ginger, they call him." He nodded. "I might have seen him. There was a guy like that last night, I remember, because he was talking to this old fella, shouting something about hospital. They went off together." "Which way did they go?" "Well, I don't know, do I? Well, I wasn't taking much notice. It might not have been him anyway." "No," I hesitated. Look, will you do me a favour?" "Depends." "If you see him again, will you tell him Link's been asking after him?" "Link?" "Yeah." "He mentioned a Link. The old guy. Link's had an accident. Something like that." But I'm Link. I haven't had an accident." "Are you sure that's what he said?" "I think so, yeah. The other guy acted sort of frantic, pulling him along, shouting." And you didn't notice which way they went?" "No, mate, sorry." I hardly slept at all. Thoughts whirled round and round inside my skull, and I was hungry as hell. There were loads of parked cars on Pratt Street, and people kept coming past, chatting, laughing, banging doors and revving up. I was glad when it started to come light. I had a coffee and an all-night joint and waited till it was time to go along to the market. I kidded myself I was going for a wash and so on, but really, I was hoping he'd be there. He wasn't, but looking down from the walkway outside the toilets, I spotted the girl Ginger had talked to in the cafe. She seemed to be by herself this time. I pelted along the walkway and down the steps and found her looking at her hats. I touched her sleeve. "Hi." She returned my hi, but I could tell she didn't remember me. "Link." I reminded. I was with Ginger. Oh, yeah. Where is he? I was hoping you'd tell me. She shook her head. I haven't seen him since Thursday. Me neither. Was it you he was meeting in Alban? She nodded. Me and Tim and Ricky and the guys you saw before. We met at the Macklin Street Centre sometimes. Didn't he come back here? I don't know. I told her what the guy in the station had said, and she shook her head. Ginger didn't know anyone here except Cam Nook, she frowned. Accident? Hospital? Are you sure the guy wasn't winding you up? But I'm pretty sure. She pulled her face. Weirdo. I looked at her. I'm worried. I'm sorry, I don't know your name. Toyah. She smiled briefly. Well, it's not really, but it's what I like to be called. I'm worried, Toyah. I've looked all over and I don't know what to do. She shook her head. There's nothing you can do, Link. Guys like Ginger come and go, you know. Move on. Maybe he's found work. I looked down, hacking at a muddy banana skin with a Toma trainer. Look, if you see him, will you tell him I've been looking for him? She nodded. Sure, if I see him. Only don't hang by your feet, okay? Thanks. I had enough dust for 2 coffees and meant to offer her one, but she moved off without saying goodbye, and I thought, that's a secret. Don't let anybody get close. Don't depend on anyone, because they'll only let you down. I turned away. From now on, I told myself, I'll worry about me. Just me. It was a resolution I was to keep for about 4 minutes. I went in the cafe, and same one as before, and I was trying not to look for Ginger, but looking anyway, and there was one empty table, and I got a coffee and sat down. The new me. That's what I was thinking. I don't need anyone. Solo and coping, right? Right. I nursed the coffee. It was warm in here and raw outside, so I paid to stay put. I was halfway down the mug when she walked in. She was dossing, I could see that, but she was the best looking dosser I'd ever seen. I noticed her hair first. Chestnut, spilling from under a green knitted cap like fire. Her eyes were terrific too, dark and wide and shining like she just had 12 hours kip. She had on a battered waxed jacket and torn muddy jeans and broken down trainers, and she soared above her scruffiness. Her looks and bearing sort of cancelled it all out. She didn't look at anybody as she crossed the cap, but everybody looked at her. I couldn't tear my eyes away. She got a Coke and turned, looking for somewhere to sit. Her eyes, those fantastic eyes, met mine for a second, and I smiled. No chance, I told myself. Scruffy little git like you. I was wrong. She came over. Every eye in the place followed her. She nodded at one of the 3 empty chairs. Anyone sitting here? She sounded Scottish. I shook my head. Mind if I join you then? I nodded, saying nothing, but being the new me, she unslung her pack and dropped it next to mine and sat down, and I lifted my mug and sipped tepid coffee, gazing out the window. I was acting so cool, it was unbelievable, but that's all it was, acting. In the real world, the blood was pounding in my ears, and it was as much as I could do to keep from goggling at that fantastic face. She inserted her straw in her Coke and sucked, and when I risked a glance at her, she dropped her eyes. I sipped more coffee, cinching her eyes on my face. I mean, I could actually feel them, like layers. After a bit, she said, have you been long in London? Without looking at her, I nodded. How long? Year and a half, I lied. Well, in 5 minutes, she got up and walked away, and we'd never meet again. That right? She sounded suitably impressed. You know your way around then? I shrugged. Some. Man of few words. What do they call you? Link. Link? She sucked up her coke. What's that short for? It's short for I have another name, but prefer not to be known by this one. Sorry. She looked sorry. I'm Gail. Hi, Gail. Just landed, right? Right. From... Don't tell me if you don't want. How's it go? Ah. Heavy scene? Aye. Stepfather. Say no more. She looked at me. You too? The new me. The guy who doesn't let anybody get close. And here I am, spilling my guts to the first stranger I meet because she's got nice hair and laser eyes. I drain my mug and push back my chair. I've got to go. Oh, why? She looked crestfallen. I shrugged. Things to do. I stood up, and this was costing me, but I wasn't going to wind up watching trains for her to come back. Don't go. So simple, so direct. Something hot and heavy stirred in my chest, and I hesitated, dangling my pack, looking down at her. What do you want, Gail? Her eyes held mine. I'm scared, Link, she murmured. I don't know what to do, how to live on the street. You'll learn, Gail. That's all. Oh, yeah. Sneered a voice inside my head. What about your dependence on Ginger, then? That urge to cling? It came to me this was the first time I'd thought of Ginger since she walked in, and that was powerful medicine. Maybe we needed each other. I dropped my pack and sat down. Daily routine orders 12. Oh dear. Oh dear. Link the stinks in Love and Laughing Boy 2's Up the Creek. Yesterday, that's Friday, I made a mistake. A gross error. Like Hitler's invasion of Russia. If I'd concentrated on Link, I might have had him, but I didn't. Instead, I went looking for boots. Reconditioned army boots. Not for me. Oh no, my marching days are over, as you know. These are for my army. The Camden Horizontals, as I cherish them. 4 pairs I needed, all different sizes, and I got them too in Bethnal Green. Of course, they're not a perfect fit, none of them, but then they don't need to be. My lads will not be doing a lot of yomping, so it doesn't matter if the footwear's a bit slack or a bit snug. All it has to do is shine. And it does. Anyway, I lost my chance yesterday. And when I picked up his trail this morning, he bumped into some tart in a cafe up the market and they left together, so it's not going to be easy. I'll have to fall back, regroup, devise fresh tactics. And I'm the fella who can do it. By golly, I am. So Shelter in the beginning of Daily Routine Orders 12 refers to Hitler's invasion of Russia as a gross error. For those of you who've not yet studied that particular period in history, lots of historians say that one of the reasons that the German army failed in their advance into Britain and taking on other parts of the world and Europe was because they committed so many resources to trying to beat Stalin's Russia, and they lost so many men, millions of men. And the German army marched on a policy or something called Blitzkrieg, which basically meant that they lived off the land around them as they marched, and they didn't bring supplies and resources with them as they went from place to place. They took from where they were to feed their army. And of course, in the Russian winter, when the snow fell and they were camped in, there was no resources then for them to live on. and there was no backup coming from the support routes because they just didn't. That wasn't the policy they adopted. This blitzkrieg policy, this moving quickly, and they lost millions of men. And then they overcommitted in Russia, and therefore when there was the invasion on Normandy beaches, there was not enough backup, enough resource for the German army to fend off the Americans and the English advance into France and then Belgium and so on. So that was the sort of the historical reference that Shelter was referring to. He was basically saying he's not going to make a mistake due to arrogance in the same way that Hitler did by not abandoning Russia to focus on other priorities. Page 93. We hit it off, Gail and me, from the word go. She got me another coffee and we sat there talking, oblivious to everything around us. It was unbelievable, really. When you're homeless and hungry, you're an outsider. Normal everyday experiences doesn't apply to you. You know, things like having a job to go to, or mates to meet, a motorbike to save up for. You don't buy CDs or get your hair cut or have a dental checkups or shop for clothes. You can't. Your circumstances put that sort of thing beyond your reach. To all intents and purposes, you belong to a separate species. And one of the hardest bits is how it cuts you off from girls. If you're a guy, I mean. See, normally a young bloke sees a girl passing by and he'll smile and maybe call out something to her and chat her up a bit. And it doesn't mean anything. And it wasn't usually lead to anything. It's just part of being young and on the loose, if you know what I mean. And now and then, maybe one time in 100, it does lead to something, and you've got a relationship which might or might not last. And the important thing is that you're part of it, right? One of the guys or one of the girls. But if you're dossing, well, you're not. You try chatting up a girl when you're ragged and grimy and pasty-faced and your teeth are crummy and she knows you don't even have a price for coffee. No chance. Not only will you not get off with her, you won't even get the smile. A dirty look and a wide berth's more like it. And the same in the reverse if you're a girl, I guess. After a bit, you just start thinking of yourself as a different creature. A creature that lives beside ordinary people but isn't one of them. So finding myself suddenly sitting in this cafe chatting with this fantastic looking girl felt really strange. And for the first time in months, I wasn't some sort of freak. I was just a young guy getting to know a girl like people do. I forgot my tatty clothes and my mad hair and the ache in my gut. I forgot about cold, hard doorways and cold, hard eyes and the fact that I couldn't even invite her to see a movie. I was a guy. She was a girl. And I might be falling in love. That was all I knew, all I wanted to know. I didn't even notice when we'd left the cafe till I found myself sitting on the wall in weak sunshine, holding her hand, while some old geezer passing by frowned at us like we were committing a crime or something. It was the start of a brilliant time for me. And all I can say is, it's a good job we can't see into the future. There's a lovely little vignette of a story here within the story of how ostracized, how separate homeless people are from ordinary life. This just this tiny little everyday experience that we might expect as part of the growing process as we begin to understand ourselves and begin to understand relationships. And Swindells uses this thing that happens for all young people as they grow and they meet new friends and they create relationships. He uses this very normal thing to highlight the extraordinary circumstances that homeless young people find themselves in, and how they're ostracized, how they're separate from society, how they see themselves as almost not normal. It's a very lovely piece of writing that allows us to empathize, perhaps, with the situation that Link finds himself in. But there is an interesting bit of foreshadowing right at the end of that little verse on page 95. And if you remember before, we talked about foreshadowing. Foreshadowing is when the writer hints at something in one part of the novel about something that's going to happen later. And Swindells says at that last sentence, "It was the start of a brilliant time for me. And all I can say is it's a good job we can't see into the future. So he's foreshadowing, he's hinting at some potential problem, disaster, separation in the future for Link and Gail. So I'll read on, page 95. So we're sitting on this wall and she says, let's get chips and eat them by the water. It's a warm day for February and at that, but there's one snag. I've got no dosh, I tell her. I have. Yeah, but it's got to last. It's slim pickings tapping. I got plenty, she says. You won't have for long if you broadcast it like that. I grin. How do you know I won't mug you for it? Try it, she says. You maybe get something you didn't bargain for. She bought chips and we sat by the water and I said, what you dossing if you got dosh? You could get a place. She shrugged. Like you said, it's got to last. And anyway, I'm with you now. I don't need a place. This sounded reasonable, as well as flattering, and I accepted it. I should have pushed a bit harder, but I was well in love by this time, and you don't, do you? We ate and talked. She was terminally curious about what she called the scene. She meant life on the street. She asked me about a million questions, and I did my best to answer them. I had no choice since I'd passed myself off to her as an old hand. To be perfectly honest, I was beginning to regret having lied. Not because of the questions, but because of love, I suppose, which is ironic considering what happened later, but this is now. I didn't tap at all that day, neither of us did. We strolled through the market looking at the costly junk and the punters who were buying it, and we got cokes and even ate again, though my wizened gut wasn't hungry. I don't believe I thought of Ginger once, except when I was telling her about him, which is rotten, but shows what love will do. And so the day slipped by. I told her about Captain Hook, and when it got dark, I thought of suggesting a night on board, but I didn't. For one thing, it'd have seemed cheeky when it was her dosh, and for another, I didn't want us to spend our first night in a reeking crowd. I wanted Gail to myself. So I took her to a favourite doorway of mine where we bedded down for the night. Nothing happened. Sorry to disappoint, but it's true. I don't know why. Malnutrition, perhaps, or stepfathers. All we seemed to want was to sleep with our arms around each other, and that's what we did. But if you think that must have been dead boring, you're wrong. And just imagine for Link now, not having had that opportunity of human contact, an embrace to reassure, a cuddle to help in difficult times. That must have been a wonderful feeling to be able to sort of share some emotion and feeling with someone and have that cuddle. Sunday, she wanted to try her hand at tapping, so we rode down to Charing Cross. I remember how Ginger had started me off, leaving me by the National Gallery while he did Trafalgar Square, and we did the same. I didn't want to leave her, even though we'd be practically in sight of each other. It was a cold morning, but dry, and there was quite a lot of people about. As I made round of benches, a little video kept playing itself inside my head. I was the star. The opening scene showed me going across to collect Gail in a couple of hours' time and finding that she's vanished. After that came a succession of shots of me in various stressful situations, running through unfamiliar streets, calling her name, trying to interest the police who don't want to know, waiting on Camden Station forever. I tried to suppress this video, reminding myself that it was Gail who wanted us to stick together. So she was hardly likely to do a runner the minute my back was turned. But it was no use. I guess I was still haunted by the way Ginger had dropped out of my life. And anyway, I didn't stick it long. The pigeons were doing better than I was in any case, scoring chunks of bread and handfuls of corn, while I got sweet FA. I swear, if ever I come to London again, I'll come as a pigeon. I did about half an hour, then started making my way back, tapping all the way. She wasn't there. Not on the steps. Not on the pavement. Panic seized my heart. I ran up the steps and looked all around, then set off along the front of the gallery, and I just turned into St Martin's Place when I saw her coming out of a phone box. Oh, my relief was so overwhelming that there was some time before it occurred to me to wonder whom she'd been calling. When I asked her, she said, "My sister in Glasgow. She made me promise to keep in touch." It sounded totally feasible. I nodded. "I've got a sister, Carol. I don't phone her though. Clean break, you know?" She nodded. I promised. "Oh, I'm not getting at you. I know." She squeezed my hand. I grinned and squeezed hers. "How much did you make?" She shrugged. "Dunno. Never counted. Hang on." She dug in her pockets and produced a double handful of change and counted it. £2.30. She pocketed the coins. "How about you?" I shook my head. 12 pence. And I'm supposed to be the expert. "Beginner's luck." She smiled. "Or maybe it's because I'm a woman." She gazed at me. "Anyway, we share, don't we? Everything." And from then on, we did. And it was all so fantastic. The time just flew. And I practically stopped noticing the cold when something happened to jerk me back into the real world. It was spring. Page 100. Daily routine orders 13. You must think I've been idle just because Link the Stink continues to evade me. A peek under the famous floorboards is all you'll need to convince you of my continuing determination to rid my country of the riffraff that's dragging it down. My tally of recruits now stands at 7. Oh, I know. I went on a bit when we reached 3, and 3 is a significant number, but 7's what you call a mystical number, the reason being one that need not detain us. All I know is lots of things go in 7s, like the 7 deadly sins and the 7th son of a 7th son, not to mention the days of the week and the magnificent 7. I've got a black one, which goes to show there's no racial discrimination in the Camden horizontals. It also helps break up the pattern, the deadly pattern I mentioned earlier. You can just imagine it, can't you? Some smart-ass detective constable looking for a pattern saying all his victims have been white. That could be significant. Well, it ain't, so there. There is no pattern, except that each operation has been a textbook example of brilliance. And they'll never see that. They've bags of swank, my lads, shiny boots and nice short hair. And if you think the boots will give me away, if you're thinking the fella I got 'em off must be starting to wonder, forget it. I don't go to one fella, I go to 3. So far. And there'll be more yet, by golly there will. You don't catch old Shelter that easily. So, the business continues. Volunteers swell the ranks. And they are volunteers, you know. Nobody forces them to come. They come for what recruits have always come for. An end to hunger and a roof over their heads. And they get it. None of my lads is hungry. And they've got a roof over their heads and a floor as well. I sometimes think I spoil them. So we move on to page 102. I think we will leave it there for today. We'll pick this up on Wednesday. And we've got about another 30 pages to read. So we'll probably, by the end of the week, finish this book. And then we'll decide whether we're going to pick up a new book or whether we're going to leave it there. Now that on the 15th of June, we will have certainly more students back in school. Thank you very much for listening this morning. I hope you have a good day of home learning. I hope you have a good week. And hopefully I'll be able to do the next reading live on Wednesday at 9:30. Take care.